I've got about 40 minutes of your life that you'll never get back. So let's make it fun, okay? I don't believe in props, but I think I'm going to use this as part of my presentation. I tried to think of a message to do this too, and I think I've got it. So let me see. How many people here have a GoPro camera? This will work well. This will work well. So what I'm going to do, and this is entirely up to you, I think within the agreement of coming to today's CAN-BIM session, you also signed away your rights to live in perpetuity on the internet. So as part of this social experiment, and I'm calling this a social experiment because this does relate to my presentation a little bit. You never know what you're going to dream up when you just start being crazy. And I think that's why some people write their best songs when they're stoned or drunk. You never know. So I'm not stoned or drunk, even though I'm from Toronto. I haven't gotten my fix like some other people did. But I've got the GoPro. I'm going to turn it on. GoPros are quite robust. It has a case on it which is shock resistant. So you can feel free, don't sit on it, don't crush it, but you can feel free to toss around. I'm going to turn it on. It's going to be recording video as we go. And I want you guys to pass this thing around from table to table, person to person. Do whatever you want to it. Like look at it, film your drink, film me, do a face shot of the guy beside you or the lady beside you. Just throw it around, okay? Say hi to it. Say, hi, I'm so-and-so from wherever, okay? Let's make it fun. It's not going to be distracting for me because I've got some great stuff to capture your attention up here. So with that being said, what's your name?
John.
John, you're my first victim, buddy. Right. I'm going to start this thing up. Are the rules of engagement pretty good here? Right? You're going to see I'm going to toss it to John lightly. John's going to possibly catch it, maybe not. If it falls on the ground, don't worry, it's not going to break. Don't press any buttons, just let it roll, and there's no screen on the back, so you can't see how goofy you look. Okay, here we go. Social experiment. Future of BIM collaboration in social project delivery by Moa Caesar. Ready, John? Here we go. Go see John. All right. So while that's taking place, I'm based out of Toronto. Been with Autodesk for a dog's age since 2000. Happy to be here. This is probably only my second or third CAN-BIM session. My schedule almost never coincides with when CAN-BIM is meeting. But I'm really happy to be here. I specialize in construction, but I speak the gamut across architects, engineers, contractors, owners, subs, project managers, like you name it, I speak to about everybody there. I'm not going to be speaking about that today, though. There's my handle at Twitter. It's at BIMCSAR. It's not meant to be czar, okay? CSAR is what I came up with in college because I was tired of people asking me, is it CEA or is it CAESAR? So I took out two vowels and just said CSAR. So if you want to tweet me later, I'd be happy to answer back. So there's my contact information. I love talking to people. Let's go. So I'm talking about the cloud strategy. I'm not talking about our technology for specifically like BIM. And I'm trying to address you guys as the consumers of it, and I'm including everybody within this address, and Autodesk customers, other software companies who are incorporating their models in to make a BIM. This is for everybody for the most part, and I'm going to point out some specific areas which are very specific to our Revit base, but this message and usage of some of the stuff you're going to see here today is certainly going to be possible. And you should be proud and happy. You are the first group that I would consider the first group in Canada to see any of this material in Canada to this depth. So you are the first foray audience. So I'm happy to show this to you. So let's go through it. Yesterday, we've got all the bullets on the left-hand side about application. Tomorrow, we're talking about platform. Application means a chunk of software that does a specific thing. Platform means a software where other softwares build on top of, or APIs are used to build other things on top of. AutoCAD is really a platform for additional software. Specific task-driven software from Autodesk that doesn't have plugins on top of it is really just an application. So Autodesk is focusing from application to platform, desktop to client. I think there's other software vendors who are doing this too. They're looking at client and cloud software versus desktop, which means no longer having to install software on your computer. You just basically open up a web browser and you go. Locally collaborative versus socially shared. I'm going to coin today's presentation. This will be my trademark if you ever see it come out in actual marketing. What you're going to see is a preview of social project delivery. Okay, I'll let you hold on to those three terms there for a second, but social project delivery really speaks to a local collaborative effort versus a socially collaborative effort. The design level of detail down to changing over to construction fabrication ready. I think it's fair to say, as you've seen modeling tools from any software vendor come out, they really came out for design first sometimes and then went into a fabrication story. I know that I'm starting to see and hear conversations today from you folks about more detail from a model and its comprehensive construction detail. Integrated simulation instead of just limited building information modeling. And this is where integrated simulation is about proving your designs first and failing on the computer first through analysis simulation, rather than just coming up with a set of documents or models for building construction. Capturing design intent and exploring versus exploring design alternatives. Better, faster, quicker, find out the train wrecks first, and moving on from there. Physical modeling versus behavioral modeling. And that really, I see that as physical modeling for the asset, but how does this asset actually perform in a living building situation? What about the occupancy that causes CO2, which increases the temperature of this room? And how often is the occupancy in this room to a satisfactory level for the landlord? What we see from an Autodesk standpoint in talking to customers and the direction that we are following because of these people that we talk to, we want the BIM to be used downstream for life cycle modeling of the usage of that building throughout time, right? Once the building's done, it's how it's being used and repurposed afterwards, the most important and most expensive value proposition. How are we doing with that GoPro? How's it hanging? It's going good? Where is it now? Awesome. Awesome. Don't be afraid, like do some crazy stuff. So I'm going to focus on desktop and client and then the socially shared. So we should all be familiar with this. Firm A, architect. Firm B, engineer. Firm C, Firm B, structural engineer, mechanical engineer. Firm D, a crisscrossing of information getting sent back and forth. You notice some of the symbols as far as highlighting software technology. Yeah, Firm A is a highly efficient silo. Firm B, highly efficient silo. Firm B, on the East Coast and West Coast, they're both highly efficient, but they are in fact silos to themselves, and I think we all recognize that. Firm D, the construction agents, just trying to make sense of what firms A and B put all together. So it causes a lot of friction to move that information back and forth. The mechanisms in pushing all that, FTP, ProjectWise, Box.net, Buzzsaw, Dropbox, big files, takes a lot of time to move that information back there. It's not a living kind of file where it's really not the promise of live, real-time change to a project delivery. So that friction, we realize that, and that's one of the underpinning ideas to what we're going to talk about coming up to next. Within the idea of the success of social media, when you think about it, I did take a moment to think about it, and I probably read some stuff too. I attribute the success of social media to cheap hardware to the masses and giving everybody a voice from that cheap hardware. So cell phones, You go Twitter, you go Facebook. That's your mass distribution through cheap hardware to get information out. So the challenge that we're trying to address for many of the consulting firms like yourselves that are out there, somewhere you will be paying IT labor, you will be paying hardware costs, and you will see it as an expense item. If we can go to cloud successfully, I would see costs coming down with the same amount or more usage that you would be able to get out of your BIM. So somewhere, someplace, it's being paid for today. What are the chances of making that cheaper, moving it to the cloud? And that's really software as a service, not just as a service repository. So let's get a gauge to the, what's the market precedence? Is anybody here using things like these messaging tools to run your projects? Is anybody using like Facebook as a project page for your project team? Is anybody using like Link, Communicator for project messaging, in between project messaging? A few of you. Is everybody who is not lifting your hand using email for project communication? What are the rest of you guys doing? Fax? Are you as old as fax? Telephone? What else? What else is anybody using to communicate ideas through their project? Dead silence, okay. No communication at all. Well, that's a stereotype. Oh. Okay. This is part of the ingredients of what we see. And the key value propositions, we see this direction we're taking as multi-firm can be synchronous throughout. And it doesn't necessarily include firewalls. It's beyond firewalls. You're creating contextual awareness. Specifically for the Revit customers out there, we're talking about an integrated Revit work sharing. So the spots that we see as troubled that can be helped through this social project delivery that I'm talking about, the direct chats through the mechanism of your design platform, the team chats, collaborating, like go-to meetings, or doing other things rather than a go-to meeting, having the model live and pulling on the model. Screenshots. Everybody uses their phones quite well for photographs and screenshots. So what about a print image, print screen, and posting that to it? So key value propositions. And here's the first look at something that doesn't exist today that's soon to be out in the marketplace. And forgive me if it sounds like it's sales. It's really not sales. This is more of an awareness for you guys that this stuff is coming, and it's actually going to be here pretty soon. You can tell, for those people that are close enough, you can tell the code name at the top is called Smart Monkey. The product will not be called Smart Monkey when it's released, but the goal of Communicator, or if it's going to be called Communicator, is that it can be used, and it's not just a Revit tool, it can be used on different software applications as a team. It is really a social team environment. And if I just basically go down through some of the lists, forgive me for not being able to laser point over there, but if I start at the top here, I've got my projects, I've got my network. Within this list, I'm in project 1234 Weston. At a glance, this is a live feed to model synchronicity. At the top, we're realizing that Model 1 is synchronizing now. We're realizing Model 2, Emily just saved to Central. Model 2, poor Jack, his save to Central failed, because that sometimes happens, and then so on. So this is an archived history of the activity taking place as a little sampler of where we're going. And now let's kind of bring in the rest of the team. So the rest of the team, and I had to qualify this, everybody should know this, like Revit doesn't equal BIM. It's a component of a modeling tool which enables the process of BIM. So everybody should know and agree with any and all of this equals BIM, right? It's graphic, it's textual, it's numerical. When you throw it all together, if it can help to calculate automatically with less manual entry and error, that's where the BIM value really comes in. So all of those tools, and this is something that's also, everything that here I'm talking about is new, so I'll just stop saying everything's new. And it wouldn't be an Autodesk presentation if it didn't have some kind of master triangle or pyramid involved with it as well. At the top of the triangle are the team. The data to the right in that silo, but it's a database. The executionable matters, the task items, all of this, including other vendors' software, can all play into this. This is a cornerstone within Autodesk 360, or also called A360. This is going to be called, and is called, A360 Team. That's a software as a service, team environment, in the cloud, file repository, team, social project delivery, task manager. So this really underpins what I'm talking about. So if and when you get these presentations, or at least a view of it, you can take a picture if you want. You've got all of the data and the team up here, the models, drawings, plans, specs, whatever over here, all the email, phone, tasks, meetings, and markup. This is a hub of cloud storage which permits the use across firewalls. So you saw that slide. I'll just reverse this back a little bit. You'll see this next slide build out. Just like social media kind of shows an update and status, your project environment now can have that similar look and feel, whether you like it or not. It can have that. I am really starting to like this approach because what it's doing, it's filtering out a pile of other junk specifically to a project. So if you're a project user, again, any project user on any software, you can show up as a team within the people. You will see recent changes within your project that you're assigned to by the administrator. And then you will also see the live feeds of people's changes to the project. Value it at the shortest notice possible. And at an administrative level or a director level, you may be instilled into many projects, right? So you will have a project list there, and you will get to see who's all on that project. And at a director level, you will get to see a lot of status and activities. If you're just a single user, a piece, like a cog within the bigger wheel, if you're one project dedicated, you'll only have one project to see. So it's very straightforward, simple, and administered through secured environments. When we dig into a project, this is where you're going to see line items down the left-hand column where you've got the project information, the data, that's all your files, the people and the discussions. You can create tasks and assign people to those tasks as well. Inside of the project members team, you can see your entire project team here at a glance, and you can scroll through to 45 more project members, and then the recent activity. And the goal of this is to make it simple to access the information. Just like a Facebook and somebody posts a photograph, or just like an email, when you click the email, you click the photograph in Facebook, you basically launch your desktop app or your Safari app or your iPad app or your smartphone app. It's basically a single click to that BIM environment whenever you go and click on it, okay? Notification. Jake, I just completed a massing study for the pediatric annex. Jake didn't have to type that in, but it's always good to use some kind of a language, whether it's English, French, Spanish, or whatever, to describe what you just did. It's pretty useless to have a project director see Caesar, model sync, done. It's a little bit better if Caesar goes, just changed the floor plan and removed Office 101 in the annex. That's a description to the model sync by Caesar, okay? That helps my project director, who is probably sitting in a Starbucks, enjoying a nice coffee while I'm back in the office, and he's gonna get something in his smartphone or on his iPad. So now we're that project director and says, okay, I'm gonna look at what Jake did. I'm gonna click on Jake, and I'm gonna click on this view in browser. This is another new component. This is, we called it, it's not gonna be called this for you guys, but we call it Large Model Viewer, LMV. And within the Large Model Viewer, this is my director who's sitting in Starbucks on his iPad using Safari or Android device, Samsung tablet, whatever. Whoop, let's go back. This viewer is inside of the browser. This is not an add-in. So basically, my director can browse this model. This is the Navisworks engine running in the browser in the background. But the data is all repositoried into the cloud. So there is no need for the synchronization of his iPad to the cloud. He does need the internet connection to grab it. And then he gets to see all the pre-saved views within that, okay? So here's an example. I'm just gonna go to the next screen, and Alex, if you wanna click on this button, there's a small video included with that. On the left-hand, this is the Large Model Viewer. On the left-hand side is the structure of this building, roof, pads, all the elements of the building itself. You can see how it will ghost out elements which are not selected in the left-hand index. So if I click on walls, basic wall, it'll highlight the items of basic wall, generic wall 200, parapet, and ghost out everything else automatically. So your director, your contractor, your sub, they're hitting the internet to get this information. It's a very fast, robust, this is a DWF, drilling through the internet, so it's not a 40 megabyte file or 100 megabyte file. So this is the LMV, the Large Model Viewer, and there's all the property information all on the right-hand side when you choose on an element or an item. Okay? Seems to make sense a little bit? Pretty easy to follow. It's not highly technical here. That's great, thanks, Alex. Which kind of brings me on to the Autodesk 360 mobile, like desktop, iPad application, Samsung application. They're not apps, it's just the browser. Inside of the browser, keep using the wrong button. Inside of the browser, on the left-hand side, we try to maximize the screen space and just give a few icons, which should be familiar to you as a social media, the gurus that you are. On all mobile devices, which is important. Access to all of your projects, leverage viewing of all Autodesk file types. So yeah, we're a little bit selfish, so you'll be able to see DWG, DWF, NWD. It's the Navisworks viewer if you get the drift. It's allowing you all of that. Team members can mark up and comment on designs right there. So I heard Dave McCarker talk about his markups with Glue. Very similar. Glue has its own application. This has a very similar kind of application to it as well. And then assigning the tasks. And on the right-hand side, these are screenshots. When you want to look at the projects, they show up in very nice thumbnailed views of the projects, the data that's associated with the projects, and the view. In this case here, it's a floor plan of the data. So those are different screenshots compiled together on that screen. And then lo and behold, this is my director's smartphone as I basically do my sync. New notification pops up, checks it out in his phone. He's a happy camper, and if he's a happy camper, I'm a happy camper. So, there's confusion, I think, that'll come out of your investigation, your future investigation into this. There's Autodesk 360, also called A360, and then there's also A360 Team. A360 is free to everybody to use. There's a certain file storage capacity that you get, it's free. And then you got A360 Team, which is a paid service engagement when it comes out, but it'll be monthly or annually. We actually do not sell software anymore when it comes to 360 tools. Basically, you can tie the software usage to your bottom line on the project rather than investing in it like a piece of desktop software. So accessing the project data. This is the sweet spot. This is the most exciting piece for me from when BIM was starting to originate from us in 2004, our version of Revit incorporating it into BIM. Skyscraper, for those of you that are using Revit, is going to be the night and day difference, and hopefully, I don't want to oversell it, but I'm really excited over it. It'll solve a lot of stuff. Talking to Alan Partridge, Caesar, I wish we could do this, this, and this, and I was extremely pleased to say, I think what Skyscraper does, it actually answers Alan's questions. My friend from Pomerleau Construction, it answers his questions today. The question this morning about there should be something out there that should allow us to collaborate with a model easier. This is it. Anybody heard of Skyscraper before? Good. A few of you. This was lightly touched on at the Revit Technology Conference. I think, is that fair where you guys heard of it? Heard from it? Gunslinger. Okay. Perfect. Skyscraper basically takes Revit model and puts that Revit model up into the cloud. Our cloud. There's that first step. The second step to it, or not the second step, but the whole goal or the value proposition is these key values of multi-firm concurrent authoring. Those are three serious words put together that it says that it does. Multi-firm concurrent authoring. This is a good thing at the bottom. No IT setup. That's always good. And BIM directly accessible to other cloud services. So if you want to tie it to analysis, you don't have to come down to your desktop to tie analysis to your BIM. It's already in the cloud, and we will tie it together for you. So this gets around the firewalls. Chicago, Firm B, Boston through a local area network. It all connects up to Skyscraper. Here's some screenshots of what it does. It's basically like a plugin into Revit, into which you have a new share icon. The share icon basically says, hey, where do you want to share it to? And we've put hooks to go out to the A360 cloud. Within the next step, you also are instructed what is your team that's going to be associated to this project. You go ahead and add those people. Those people would have an A360 account. They would use typically their email address, and then you would add them to the account. And you can add and remove people as you go as an administrator. So where we're moving from is a single file location that's firewalled, and some people here I know are doing Revit Server, which is only localized to a wide area network within one company or through a tight VPN at best. But now we're talking Skyscraper, and all of these companies leveraging through the A360 service get to experience this. These are just some screenshots of the video that I'm going to show at the end because the video runs so fast I can't talk to it. But here's the idea of how it would work to give you that first impression. Paul, part of one office, has Revit open. He wants to migrate the model up to A360. So Paul launches the app or the add-in to Revit, says, out of all of these projects in my, on my server, I want to send the First Baptist Church up to A360. When he does this, this is like sending it away to the cloud. It uploads it, and then we close it out. Paul has already invited Greg to the project. Greg has some administrative privileges and invites Mindy Patel to the project. And this is, again, through the Revit interface. Within that, Mindy now has access to A360, and you can see within her her file explorer on the left-hand side, the hook into A360 up here, and it looks just like she's browsing her own server. Now she grabs it, and now essentially what we're doing and what you'd be doing is that you're doing work sets. So you are borrowing elements just like you do today. Nothing changes there. You basically say okay. It caches a file on your local desktop. You work on it. Other people work on the same file in a cached environment. Tom, same model. Now he's being notified by this person, Mindy, that she is now syncing. Right within the environment, this smart monkey or / communicator is telling him what's going on. the team communicating in real time. They can have a chat through the window and look at each other's screen live. And this is what I was saying about the services. Once you have the file up in the cloud, you can start associating other 360 services directly to that whole skyscraper model that exists up there. So this is the really fast video. Those slides that I showed you, this is the video kind of piecing it all together. Ready? Don't blink. It's really fast. Go ahead, Chris. There's Paul. Watch it. He's a rocket. He's making the project. He's got the project selected. Initiate the synchronization. And it's just that fast. 2,000 megabytes up to the cloud. Kidding. There's Paula. And like I said, keep in mind, if you've got subs, you can bring your sub into the conversation in midstream and then, tie off their account. Bring them in, tie it off. They don't necessarily need to see the model all the time, but it'd be good if you bring in some of these master subs to say, this is what we're thinking in our job, because it is a secured kind of environment. There's a communication. Partners in the model are all notified based on what's going on. Here's the chat. Paul and Mindy are having a chat discussion around the stadium here, the stadium. And these are conversations which will also be tied back to the project. So there's a history of accountability there as well. Okay? There's Art Vandelay, who's the project owner. If anybody knows Seinfeld. That's the owner at the Starbucks through the large model viewer on their Samsung Galaxy, checking it out to say, hey, I loved what was going on, great work. So the 3 bullet point items that I really want you to walk away with: access the project data. Anytime, anywhere access of data, that's what's made social media successful. Enhanced communication. As much as social media and Facebook can just drive you nuts, and it drove me nuts too just about a week ago, a little bit more refined. And connecting the entire team. And I think that goes with the big struggle for everybody here. So, how are we doing on the camera? I saw some great examples as to people going like this, and where's the camera now? Please tell me. Oh, thank God. Not to put any pressure on anybody, but any questions that might want to come to surface?
Alan Partridge, CanBIM. Caesar, thank you very much. I think you know that some of us who've been close to this product for many, many years have struggled and fought with the desire to work inside one unified model.
Yeah.
And so it's thrilling to see what's been delivered today. I've always maintained that once we break the threshold of where we can design in the same way as we construct, because when we construct, we don't assemble a mechanical system in the parking lot and drag it into the building. Right. It's a unified process. And so we should be designing that way. I think this product, the way you've rolled it out, and I know it's early days with it, and there's going to be teething problems and everything else, could fundamentally be the game changer of how practice as we know it has to change. Because the nature of practice as we have right now cannot survive. And I'm talking about architecture and engineering. The nature of construction, design, and procurement, assembly, and operation can't survive the way we have. This is a way that we can make sure we all speak in the same language. So if this wasn't rolled out today, you know exactly what I would have been saying. And so as I've always badgered you, the friends at Waltham, Phil, Anthony, and all the others, I think we owe you a big round of applause to take back to Autodesk.
Yeah, I did it all myself. Yeah, thanks for that, Alan. Alan and I have gone back a long time, presented many presentations together. I understand his views entirely, and they are ingrained in me. Today, I think this presentation is only due to some of the people that I've tied back to in the States. One of the people that I've worked with, Angie Izzy, she's delivered this presentation about a month ago to AU Japan. It was Anthony Hawk also that gave me the skyscraper information. I wish I could tell you more. In my conversation with Alan before coming out to CanBIM, it was one of, we need to have some metrics, we have to have some guidelines, we have to have some best practices, and that's where you can see, it's like timeout, it's not even out yet. But the kind of people that use BIM want the next best thing because they want to evolve and move forward fast, fast, fast. It's very progressive. As a culture, you're very progressive. So with that, I do have a few specs that I'll verbally say to you because I didn't have a chance to paste them. So, sorry if I'm going long, Justin. Okay. Okay. So, you're not going to see this on the screen, but here's some basic specs. Requirements are mostly Revit. So the first requirement, it is 2015. It is a skyscraper plugin. T1 or better, or a better line with latency. And if you want to take some specs down, less than 100 milliseconds to the service. But it does tolerate higher latencies. So when you're thinking about file size, the latency within the internet and stuff like that, there's some precedents that we have here, some examples and some specs. Some of the quotes, I asked them also for some quotes, the good, the bad, the ugly. I only got 3 quotes, and they're all pretty reasonable. They're good, I think. One of them was from AEC Magazine, and the quote from Martin Day was, "It's clear to us that the additional features for the 360 platform combined with the easy implementation of Skyscraper will eventually be the default collaboration platform in the Revit world," which is a pretty impressive quote. Next quote was from project manager at ACAI Associates, Giulio Uribe. "I like the ability we have to collaborate at the same time. This new tool reduces the time of sharing information between the different firms." And I agree with that too. The one guy, Evan from SRG, "I love the chat feature. It's a great addition, saves a lot of time communicating." So, you know, we've got the premise there. This is how I'm going to try to wrap up my GoPro example. Until you start trying something different, you never know what the results are going to be. And you never know. Whenever I was thinking about this gimmick this morning, it was like, okay, how can I rationalize this? Construction, you never know. Maybe they need GoPro cameras on some of the helmets of steel installers to really convey a point of view aspect for installing certain pieces of steel, or certain installers. Having a GoPro on the construction site, on a site supervisor, or on a master trade installing stuff, it might be a valuable way of taking imagery one step further. So I really appreciate your participation with the GoPro. Tweet me if you want to see the video. I'll share it with Justin and CanBIM, and maybe we can deliver it like that too. I hope there's no incriminating evidence on there. And yeah, any other questions before we wrap up? Awesome. Thank you very much.